everyone. This is Tired Goth, and we are currently recording the second part of the podcast that I began yesterday when my phone was dying. So, this is how I've chosen to record all of my work. I have options to record on other devices, but I've found them actually less effective for this. So, this is the Academia Gothica podcast, season 12, episode 2, part 2. I'd like to follow through with some of the things, contributions, effects that I've had on the status quo and how I don't feel that they've necessarily been paid the attention that is necessary. So we're just going to dive in to some of the stuff that I do, that I talk about, and you're going to see for yourself why it's important that you listen to me and you make the judgment call yourself. So what would you do? Because we're about to dive into a threat model here, right? If you don't know what a threat model is, a threat model takes information, situations, threatening situations, maybe things you didn't know could happen, things that you didn't know existed, all sorts of things, and positions it in such a way where you are on the direct impact of it, on the receiving end of it, or have something to react to in your position. Now, of course, this is for entertainment purposes only and for 18 plus participants and audience viewers, but I would like to follow this through with the fact that if you are listening to these examples and you don't know what to do, you may be at a very big impasse and require people like me to help guide you through these things. And that's what I came to do. So I'm going to bring to light the fact that, yes, I am sort of a homegrown grassroots security and privacy researcher. I got into this, I guess you could say, field of expertise and interest by force. I was brutally attacked into it, and I have learned quite a bit. So I'd like to share that with you today. So let's start with one example. Supposing you walk into your own house to find that the person that you've been living with, love very much, and have perhaps been having some difficulties with because you've sensed underlying tension that can't be explained, planted something in your house to sabotage your work, to frame you. Supposing they had a digital document or something that could not otherwise be accounted for as yours or anything that you would have known about, and suddenly you walk into your home to find them completely gone. And whatever it is that is present in the home is the remnants of what they were doing before they left. Supposing this was something that you had no point of reference for, what would you do? I would like the audience to comment back. What would you do in the case that you discovered this and you had no idea what was going on? You saw that, analytically speaking, you saw that the person who was once there in that moment is no longer present. So there's a physical disappearance of the person. The second thing you notice is that things were strategically left for you to discover them. Now, whether or not you actually discovered them is where we're going to get into here. Because I would like to pose to you that, remember, this is a threat model. The floor is lava in these. Anything that could be happening is actually something that could be set as a trap to sabotage you. So keep that in mind here. Everything around you is basically poison to you in this threat model. In all threat models, nothing can be trusted, right? This is where this podcast is going. Yesterday, I was talking about my contributions and how I don't feel they're repaid. Now I'm going to show you exactly why you need me, okay? So in a threat model like this, everything down to the fact that you opened the door to find someone missing could be an issue for you. And why is that? Because the person that you just got into a fight with is actually a person who had been trying to undermine you this entire time. Supposing you realized in that moment, as you opened the door, that you were dating your opposition. Then what do? How do you handle that? Can you trust anything that you touch in that home? Can you guarantee that anything in that home is not laced, tripped with something, recording you on some sort of photograph or media device? Or can you guarantee that anything that was left in your line of sight can be reliable by you? Is it trusted? We need to address the fact that this is a very common way that people, especially people who have been trafficked, who have been targeted, who have been gang stalked, who have been proven to be on the receiving end of insurance policy fraud by parties unbeknownst to them through recent discovery. This is what we need to talk about. We need to talk about the threat models that continually follow them around and destroy their peace. Because it does go so far as to enter your home. It does go so far as to position itself in your place of peace and rob you of what it is that you deserve to have, which is peace away from these fuckers, right? Yes, not along. Yes, that is exactly what you deserve. So this is the threat model that covers that. What do you do in the case that someone nearby is planting forged evidence or planting something to make you appear guilty around you in your own private space? We are talking about something that is an antitrust and negative trust level threat model. This is advanced threat modeling. This is presuming that nothing around you is safe. Never was, and at its peak could never be again unless you address these issues. Okay? So this is where the fun part begins. How do you tell if something that you own or something that you're doing has been tampered with without submersing yourself into the evidence, without proclaiming yourself guilty? How do you know when to take those steps? Because you can't retrace some steps. For example, I'll clue you into something here. If you report someone for planting evidence of child abuse on you, the first question that someone may ask you during an investigation is, how did you know it was child abuse, and what you're going to slip up and say? Because your brain is trained to respond to people liking your responses and not to think when you're under pressure and when you're afraid. Because you could actually be telling the truth by saying, I have no idea. But what you're going to want to say in your brain that you have to train yourself to understand is actually creating like a misnomer or a miscommunication of your actual like self is this. You're going to need to explain to them step by step. You're actually going to mentally pause. You're going to have to pause and think about exactly what it is that would override your fear in that moment and dissect it step by step. What did you do? Where did you go? What was your footing? What did you recognize first? Because what your brain is going to want to say is a verification of your own intuition without having the steps in order. And this is where it gets to be very messy, okay? How do you know? Well, the truth of the matter is, people will position evidence of abuse in your possession before you can recognize what it is in order to instantly make you guilty, okay? A lot of shock websites, a lot of shock assaults online have to do with presenting paraphernalia. And this is a very messy topic. This is for 18 plus members. If you have children with you or in the room, kindly have them position themselves where they're playing with their toys elsewhere, where they're doing something else. This is a discussion for the parents here, okay? Because what is actually happening is young people are being exposed to paraphernalia that includes child abuse, CSAM, all sorts of things that have to do with making your positioning as a witness less credible as a person willing to fight against it. Okay? The reason why this is being done to young people is to groom them into the normalcy that this is just what's circulating around online now. It's not normal. Let me be the one to tell you it's not normal. Anyone presenting your youthful person in your family or friend circle with this information is trying to get them arrested. They're trying to get them guilty. They're trying to put something spiritually on their soul that they don't know how to combat because they don't understand what is being presented to them in the weight of a sentence. Okay? In the weight of law. How could they know that if they're young and they're not paying attention and they think their friends are just messing around with them? They think that people are just crazy online. We have to address this because this is exactly how people get framed. These foreshadowings of who is following these people around earlier on in their life could indicate who could get arrested for no reason later on in life. Let's talk about this. Because lining someone up to be pinned for something that would inevitably kill them, such as not being eligible for a jail sentence and then being sent to jail to die there, or to possibly become so depressed that they kill themselves, is exactly the thing that would lead to an insurance payout, supposing that the insurance financing was approved by an insurance company. And mind you, none of this will actually be conveyed to the person whose name is on the account if someone else opened this account. Are you understanding what I've come to do here yet? So now I'd like to position you again. Supposing that you knew that any of this was possible, that you yourself could be the target of an insurance policy scam, that you yourself could be human sacrificed, as people are calling it, that you could be a sacrificial lamb to one of these heartless groups that does this kind of stuff. What would you do upon entering your house versus how you would have initially entered your house? Initially, my guess is, because I know people, I know how they think. I know myself too. The first thing you do when you're comfortable is you waltz right into your house. You check everything. Why is this like this? Why is this like this? No gloves on. No kid gloves, nothing. You are comfortable in your house, and that is what they are relying on to happen to you when they're planting evidence that isn't yours on you. When they are planting a frameable evidence on you, they are expecting you to be calm, cool, comfortable, unassuming. They are expecting you to be a duck, running over to its owner, expecting everything to be the way that it always was until you get grabbed by your neck, carried off to the slaughter, and harvested for parts. Believe me when I tell you this is what the actual incentive here is, right? Okay. Now that we're all on the same page, take two. You walk up to your door. You see that it's slightly open. You push it open with your finger to find out that the person who was just there, who left all of their equipment out in the middle of the room for you to stumble upon so conveniently, is also conveniently missing from the immediate area that they just were, where they were just lounging, laying down, comfortable. What do you do? What you want to do, because I can promise you, what they want you to do is walk over to the things that look strange, to the things that were abandoned. Do not do that. Don't do it. You will thank me later. You have to train your brain to understand that these are luring targets. They are honeypots. They are reels for your curiosity to pull you in. Do you remember what I said about how powerful your attention is in previous episodes of this, and how to use it and how not to give it in certain circumstances? All of this ties together. You don't want to give your attention, yourself, to something that is set up to hurt you. So what do? Your safest bet in any situation, anywhere, no matter who is talking to you, no matter how weird something is to grab your camera and ignore the obvious. You turn on the camera, you record from the foot of the doorstep into your way in, or as soon as you can recall that you have a camera on you, that you need a device to do this, and you record everything. The minute something in your gut tells you, I don't know what's going on here, I feel weird, grab that camera. Grab it. Grab the camera. Turn it on. Start recording. Record your feet. Lift the camera up to whatever is going on around you and say, okay, this is me. This is where I am. This is the date, if it's not time-stamped already on your device. You record everything. This is coffee, by the way, but at this point, it should be whiskey. I don't drink, though. So, yeah. You want to grab that camera and you want to record every step of what you're doing. From the moment you realize something is off, all the way through until your final moment of your recording where you decide, okay, like maybe I don't need as much information. You are going to wait for that shoe to drop. You are going to wait for that person to return. You are going to wait for whatever it is that's going on to show itself. And then you are going to stop recording and immediately present it as evidence wherever you can, to whatever parties you can, for the sake of showing, this is me. This is where I am. This is where I was. This is evidence of my own recollection and collection here, that I don't actually know what this is. And the reason why it's going to be important to show that you don't know what something is because the whole purpose of something as devious as this is to sully your name. The whole purpose is to sully your identity, your name, and your intentions, everyone. If your intentions appear as if they cannot be relied upon or trusted, what is going to happen is you are going to be held in contempt of something. This could be in contempt of a judicial process, contempt of your own presence as a human being, contempt of the safety of others, whatever it is that you are accused of. It is at the hand of someone who knows you are going to get in trouble for what you're about to do or find, literally by accident. This is why these things are planted. This is why if someone plants drugs on you and you don't do drugs and you don't know how to defend yourself because you're not aware of what drugs could look like, you don't know where drugs could be hiding in your house, but suppose there is a setup where someone does this, you need to be aware of how to act, how to physically behave to preserve yourself in a moment where someone wants your preservation to be completely stripped from you. I am coming to you from a position where I, in my own house, at one point stepped into my home to go to my water filter to drink water from it that I had been purifying over the course of a few hours, only to find that the glass of water that I had poured myself may have actually been spiked behind my back with a drug I not once would have even had in my possession for any reason, in any way, shape, or form, and I had no idea how it got there. And I literally had to collect evidence around my home of random powders, shavings, things that I knew nothing about, had no recollection of whatsoever. And it wasn't because I'm a forgetful person. It's because I simply wasn't there. I simply was not cognizant or present to understand that these things could have been happening with my awareness. I was either sleeping and someone broke in. I was either out on a walk to secure groceries or something like that and someone broke in. There could have been keys copied behind my back to purposefully leave me at fault with something during a vulnerable point in my life. These things were known only after the fact. It took for me to lift that glass to my lip to realize that it went numb. and I was not able to drink the water. I poured it out. I got rid of the entire batch of filtered water I had made from there. I changed the entire filter process out that I had. I changed everything because this is something that can very much happen to you. Now, what happens if someone walks into your residence while you are not there, sets you up this way, and you are known to be on probation for something? A waiting period to further prove your innocence, and someone is attempting to sabotage this fact. Then what happens? They are planting something on you to assure your denial of justice. This is their intention, not yours. So what you need to do to protect yourself and to position yourself as you are against all odds of the data being presented is you need to record and document and journal and keep note of every single thing that occurs to the best of your ability and the best of your resources in order to prevent this from happening in a way that leads to your denial of rightful service and justice. I'm not talking about packet denials of service where you overload a system and force the server to break down online. While this is a bit similar emotionally, this is not the requisite for humor here. This is not what we're doing here. We're actually saving lives and positioning people to be aware of how evil really can get. So my question to you is, if you listen to me and you understand that what you need to do is record with your devices everything that's going on in order to assure that your intuition locks in with physical proof when it does, I am going to teach you how to do that here. And if you would like to tip me or provide any kind of fee, or I shouldn't say fee, if you'd like to pay my fee and book me for a class, you can book me by hour. I am charging $150 an hour for these services, but they are legit. They equip you for what it is in the way of terrorism that could be touching your home and any other types of sabotage that could be planted there by organized crime groups that are after your assets and have incentives to harm you. I'm telling you that it's real. Unfortunately for me, it was real. I am going to position you so that it is not real for you, that it is but a class in defense that you're interested in, and not a literal nightmare that you ever have to live without a point of reference for your survival. So I'm now going to circle back here and tell you that if you follow this information, you record everything, and you have all of the device information that you need, you are already in a position of having an upper hand over someone who tried to literally throw you into a jail cell to assure maybe a few things, but one of two for sure, that anyone who was ignoring your justice gets paid through the justice system for jailing you. There are real incentives for financial income based on anyone's arrest, whether or not they were guilty, right? So not only would the jail make money if you were locked up, but for the longest time that you are locked up, they would continue to collect taxpayer money in favor of the jail and its employees to secure their incomes and to secure the viable nature of the jail remaining open and in service. Based on your arrests, each and every one of you who have ever been arrested or held. So for each person that fills those cells, our government makes money. There is not a great incentive to release people based on this. And there are a lot of crooked people working in the justice system because guess what? They are bullies. Some of them are bullies. I'm not going to say a lot of them are. I've met quite a few who have been bullies, but not all of them are. And we want to be grateful for those who aren't, who are internally fighting probably with these same people the way that civs are. A lot of police officers actually die because of other police officers. Let's be serious. Because they're crooked fraternal orders. So, another thing that we need to pay attention to here is who we are actually getting upset with. The second thing is, for every law enforcement department, there is a crime agency seeking their aid to cover for them in order to assure peace in a community that is also becoming very crooked. There could be secret orders supporting this. There could be secret factions of alliances that are supporting this, going all the way back to when they went to school together. We don't know exactly what prompts the continuance of this, but this is the reality of what some of us are dealing with. Small hometowns or not. So we need to pay attention to how this ends up threading itself internationally. If you have one city or state that knows another city's or state's police force, military operants, whatever it is that it is in the operant power that claims authority over these sources, we have to understand that these friendships could easily be something getting in the way of our justice. And that planting data is a very quick and viable thought solution to these issues for these crooked people, or at least they believe that it is. While it has worked on some people, it will not work on all, and I am one of the people it did not work on. Howdy. So this is essentially what we are addressing. We are addressing the fact that crookedness in authority has a lot to do with people's choices to demean justice. And I understand that demeaning justice is no longer an option. So, once you have made it to the point that your intuition feels a little weird, you feel like something's off, that's the minute you need to start documenting everything. You need to literally override your anxiety and say, okay, the time is this. Approximately 3 minutes ago, I said this. Whatever time you're documenting, you actually want to trace about 10 minutes prior to this to assure your full presence was accounted for before you became fully present. I'm going to say that again. Consciously, your brain, your heart, and your stomach are all going to be feeling different things about the situation. So you want to account for that with at least 10 minutes prior of when it all came into alignment and you realized, oh shit, something's weird. Something is bad here. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it could be, but it doesn't feel right. Take 10 minutes and add it onto the clock ahead of time. If you noticed it at 4:43 p.m., you say 4:33 p.m. It's between 4:33 p.m. and about this time that I was present doing whatever it was I was doing. And then I realized this is when I could have walked into something that didn't make any sense. And this is the documentation from there. I say this because not everybody is going to have the type of life where they're running around with a camera scared shit for the kind of people who are around them. Knowing that this could be a potential situation in your life, you may have inklings that this is what you have to do to secure yourself. You may have ideas that, yeah, maybe you have a weirder than weird kind of situation happening and you need to document it. But no one really wants to live like that. It's the truth. No one wants to exist in that panic, that constant disappointment and state of anxiety, right? But it can be used to your advantage. You can quite literally alchemize this kind of situation and bring it into a position where you become what is hunting the issue as opposed to being hunted. And the next step that you want to take after initializing this documentation is to just continue it as much as possible until you get some sort of inkling of what actually happened, where the disappeared person was, that they returned in the first place. You want to continue as much of this documentation despite the desire to stop and hold on and wait. You don't want to do that. You don't want to stop your own documentation. You want to keep it a rolling thing. You don't want to give too much of yourself away in the documentation because what you're really doing is absorbing. You're in a receptive state. You're not in a giving state. Receptivity. Receptivity is what you're focusing on because you're collecting data to answer your own questions. because you have questions at that point. Where did this person go? What happened? Why was everything left the way that it was? In a position left for me to discover it. Which, of course, upon the discovery, you do not, of the discovery of the I guess you could say, your environment, your immediate environment, you don't go prying further. You actually just collect evidence around what is around you. You do not pry. Supposing you do pry, you also want to have proof with a camera that you had no idea what was going on. Because that clears you. That clears your name in the case that you are dealing with a literal psychopath who has no concept of right and wrong and is literally like, yeah, I'm just going to throw you under the bus because I don't feel like going under that bus for what I already did. That's usually what you're dealing with. I hate to break this to you, but that is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who have no concept of realistic attribution for literal crimes. Literal things that are not legal, literal things that are not normal, literal things that you had nothing to do with and never would have. You need to understand your power in this situation because you have it. They don't want you to discover that though. They don't want you to discover your power in this situation as simply sitting back and receiving with a witness. And it's a digital witness, it's a camera. Do you understand? The better way to document this is also on a device that would be very difficult to tamper with. So a camcorder, any type of non-phone camera recorder is also very helpful. I understand a lot of people, for the ease of convenience, use their phones. But you also want to use something that typically would not be housing documents non-natively on it. So while a bunch of people can download videos onto their phone and say, oh, you know, I found this and and you know, this is going to serve as my proof. No, like, the less likely it is for someone to be tampering with an MOV file off of a camcorder or something like this, the more viable it is as evidence, because you could literally just present it. And I want to forecast that in the case that someone going against you is so psychotic as to try to plant a video onto your camcorder, be prepared for that. Be prepared for that and take external documentations of this. Take external documentation by taking a picture of what it is that you found, or taking an external video of what you found scrolling through your own devices. Because what people are capable of doing is tampering with any kind of viable format of information that would clear your name in order to sully it. People who are doing crime are doing the most with their free time to cover up what they're doing to frame innocent people. That's why they need so much money for their resources. Between the drugs they need to do to sustain themselves to be this crazy, and the tampering of evidence and the tampering of like actual devices and replacements, and can we pay this guy to remote log it here and like, this is where a lot of that crime money is going to. It's not going to like funding kids at churches and shit. It's not going to that. I don't care what they're telling you. I will hearken back to the word good. A day or a thing without color. This had to do with bloodshed back in the medieval ages, but what it really means is, okay, if you spilled blood, you better clean it up to make it look like it was never there. This is what you're dealing with in the way of the criminals operating with a good mindset. They leave no trace on purpose, or at least they try to. But these things are seen for what they are. Be aware that nothing is safe in an environment and a setup like this. So what you want to do, you're gonna laugh at me for this, but listen. What you're gonna want to do is start carrying around vinyl gloves and a camcorder everywhere you go. Vinyl gloves, yes, I said it, examination gloves. You're going to want to have at least 2 pairs of those in your pocket, not because you're entering a burrito eating contest, but because you are about to prevent yourself from leaving fingerprints all over everything. I'm going to say that again. You're going to prevent yourself from leaving fingerprints all over everything. Supposing that someone is trying to frame you for your presence and dust you for prints that you didn't know you were touching down on. Do you know how I know this? One time, when I was trapped in a house, I found out that after I escaped for a day, I came back to my own fingerprints on the wall being dusted for with dark ink or something, whatever it was used. You know, those brushy things? Yeah. My prints were taken off of a wall, and someone thought that I wouldn't return to the house to notice it. I ultimately left that house, but I noticed every single thing that was happening on the way down. Believe me, it's real. Okay? Believe that it's real. Anyway, I'm grateful for all of your participation. I'm grateful for everyone who showed up. I am interested in what it is that you petitioned me. If you messaged me and you're interested in my services and booking me for classes, please go over to my profile and hit the message button and send me a message there. Also, you can book me for my negative trust classes. I am very adept at teaching these, and I feel like a lot of you might actually be super interested in what I could teach you. In addition to this, you can check out my merch store at kissnet.myspreadshop.com in order to support me as an artist, a creator, and a funder of my own future. And also, if you could like, share, subscribe, share my pages, share my videos, I would be super, super grateful, because this is how I reach the collective, how I raise their vibration, how I raise their awareness, and how I associate with you all as a network of people that I like being around and like educating. So you can check me out on YouTube. The replay of this podcast will be there. It's youtube.com/@tiredg0thox. And you can also subscribe to me as a monthly donor and supporter through Patreon at patreon.com/agofficial, where I write weekly articles every Sunday. I also have a gratuitous amount of memes that you can check out. A lot of them have been turned into t-shirts, hoodies, water bottles, magnets, all sorts of things for your fridge and your setups at home that you can purchase. And all of that is at kissnet.myspreadshop.com. In the case that you would be open to donating to me as a person just because you like what I do and you like the fact that I'm here, I'm over at paypal.me/NANIA for Nania Antonia. That's my last name and my first name. And you can also donate to Cash App at XO, lowercase, 14337. That's XO 14337. I'm super grateful for your contributions and for all it is that you do to keep creators and educators like me in check, afloat, and fully ready and capable of supporting you even further. I love you guys. This has been the Tired Goth expose of lunatics. And you can also stay tuned for my book. In the case that you're interested in purchasing Privacy Actually, there is a second book drop happening for the miniseries called Attacks Actually. It is not done yet, not yet. But you can purchase your copy for $5 of Privacy Actually. And you can also purchase a book bundle for about $20, $20 and sales tax. So I'll be posting that in the YouTube actually. So go to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/@tiredg0thox. And just go to the bio or go to the actual video descriptions. Each of those are linked there. You can check that all out. And you can help creators like me get to people like you in the best way possible. I love you all. So this is the official closing of the Academia Gothica official podcast. I'm so grateful for you tuning in. I'm so grateful for you being so patient for the part 2. And I will catch you guys later. So long. Bye.